A lot of thought has been put into this part of the bubbles theory due to its complexity. Even among quantum and classical physicists, the arguments are still as heated as it gets. From a bubbles theory perspective, the Graviton boson is simply an energy bubble, just like the Magnon, gluon, W and Z bosons. The difference is in its weakness and abundance. It is the first bubble to form at the beginning of the first second after the birth of this universe, according to physicists. The famous theoretical physicist Peter Higgs assumed the existence of these bosons, which was later confirmed in the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland. This bubble, which is Higgs boson or the graviton, gives the material bubble its mass, which in turn forms space. We believe that the graviton makes up 99% of the total capacity of energy that matter can hold. This permits a dynamic energy metabolism within matter. Energetic metabolism is the collection of exchanges of energy bubbles in a certain matter. This ensures the persistence of matter as well as its physical and chemical reactions within the matter existence system. According to the first principle of the bubbles theory, you can't charge a material particle with new energy bubbles unless you make space by kicking out other pre-existing energy bubbles. Heated gases rise because their atoms are charged with heat bubbles, which causes other bubbles to get expelled, making room for the heat bubbles. Some of those leaving bubbles are graviton bubbles. This is why matter becomes lighter and in turn floats. Some other leaving bubbles include charge bubbles, which weakens the attraction between the electrons and protons. This leads to a lesser dense mass. That's why matter expands and increases in size. If we heat a solid material, it will expand until it turns into liquid form. It will continue to expand until it eventually evaporates. The moment the material elements are formed, which is known by the nuclear fusion, is when initial charging of the material takes place. It is charged with the 4 types of energy bosons. Any additional charging of the material after its birth will cause an energetic turbulence in it. Forcefully charging the material with additional energy bosons causes a turbulence in its energy. It regains its energy stability with what is called the energetic metabolism, in which it let go of some other energy bosons. The presence of energetic metabolism is evidence to the presence of life in it. Keep in mind that biological life is not what is meant here. Instead, we're referring to non-biological unconscious life, even though both forms of life are defined by a continuous movement and reaction. Let's understand the concept from the bubbles theory perspective. Let's think about it the same way Archimedes thought about the pressure of liquids. The applied static pressure of the universe on matter is equivalent to the energy of the displaced bubbles. The energetic pressure that is applied on the content of the universe due to the graviton bubbles is proportional to the mass of every object that swims in this universe. Graviton bubbles are constantly moving in the universe. This is happening because of the continuous energetic metabolism that occurs in the stars, planets, and other objects, and the active charge-discharge process. This causes pressure to be applied on every object in the universe from every direction. Think of it like you're squeezing a small ball until it collapses on itself. Now we've arrived to a critical point, so please sit back and enjoy your coffee. Let's use Archimedes' analogy to understand how graviton works. Imagine a sink filled with water. If we remove the plug, we'll notice a swirl in the water which results from it draining. This will reduce the pressure in the sink, and any residue in the water will be pushed downwards. Because of the pressure applied to it from all directions. Back to the bubbles theory. Matter is the drain and graviton bubbles are the water. This is the case because graviton bubbles enter the matter continuously. These gravitons are rounding the cosmic matter and maintaining the pressure in its course and consequently its temperatures. Gravity is nullified in the core, and the graviton bubble is metabolized into bosons, like photons and magnons, which are the free and restricted forms of electromagnetism. This is what scientists expect and assert, which is that all four forces emerge from one, so the photon maintains the magma in the core. Magnons are effectively feeding the magnetic field of a planet, which differs in its intensity according to the type of the material that forms the magma, like chrome, nickel, and iron. The rotation of the Earth relative to its magma causes the slide of the two magnetic poles and sometimes even their reversal. We believe that this field is what causes the polarity of planets and their rotation around themselves, as well as around bigger objects. As the universe expands, the graviton's density decreases, and eventually gravity will collapse as an inevitable consequence of the collapse of the universal pressure. This leads to a decrease in mass density, followed by the hardening of the magma and the end of the magnetic field. And that means we won't have the magnetic lens acting as a shield, protecting planets from deadly radiations. The effect of the magnetic lens can be seen at sunsets in both poles. Because of its weakness, some frequencies are able to bypass it, and that's what is known as the aurora borealis. Some forget about this magnetic shield and consider what happens as a result of a gravitational lens to prove that the space-time continuum is a thing. The bigger a planet is, the more gravitons it absorbs, and so the more of a pressure reduction zone surrounds it, exactly like water draining in a sink. So naturally, other smaller surrounding objects are influenced by the flow of gravitons, and therefore they are pushed towards the planet, and that's gravity. And to prove that a graviton as a non-materialistic particle is capable of doing so, let's look at a similar example, the magnon bubbles. They move matter according to their field lines. And another example, the gluon bubbles hold protons together. The reason that gravitons don't cause planets to drift away from their orbits is because of a centrifugal force caused by their rotation. That's how all the mass in the universe is able to maintain its coordinates and orbital paths. Depending on its characteristics, a material either passes or blocks light in accordance with the well-known laws of reflection and refraction. Scientists added another term, which is bending. Some assert that it happens due to the so-called gravitational lens, in order to prove the prophecy of Einstein. We believe that bending is a special kind of reflection. If it exists, it is because of a lens of another kind that has nothing to do with gravity, but rather it results from magnetism. The reflection of a ray of light tangential to a sphere draws a straight line on the wall. The intensity of this reflection depends on the type of the material the sphere is made of. It is usual and expected that a curved surface would reflect a straight line on the wall, which is exactly what we experimentally found, except when we used a magnet. We noticed that the reflection line had a point focus. The intensity of the reflection in it is more concentrated than the rest of the line. And as soon as the light ray approaches the field of the magnet, the reflected rays gather in a point, and this is similar to the effect of lenses. If this is proven, then this means that the alleged bending doesn't exist. If it is not proven, then it won't go beyond the concept of reflection, which indicates a change in the coordinates of the light source. We don't believe in the existence of a gravitational lens nor the time-space continuum. There is a lens, but it's a magnetic lens that is occurring due to the energetic repulsion between light waves and electromagnetic waves. Because after all, photons and magnons are the two forms of electromagnetic bosons. The two forms are free and restricted. The black object, which is wrongly known as the black hole, uses its enormous magnetic energy to burst any approaching matter, turning this matter into simple quarks after all its bosons, magnons, and graviton bubbles are released. The quarks then join the black object after emitting all forms of rays with all its wavelengths. It is said that even light doesn't escape a black hole, when in fact, light doesn't need to escape it in the first place, because a black hole with its enormous magnetism doesn't attract anything but magnetized material. Only matter which carries charge gets attracted, which means that a black hole is the largest and most intense magnetic lens which disperses light. And that's exactly what has been discovered lately. The black hole bent the light crossing from behind it. If instead this was a gravitational lens, then light wouldn't have been able to escape. In the bubbles theory, the fact that light can escape from a black object is evidence that there is no such thing as time-space continuum, and it is instead a phenomena or a byproduct of the magnetic lens. In the bubbles theory, the fact that light can escape from a black object is proof of the existence of repulsion force as a result of a magnetic lens and not a gravitational force caused by a non-existing gravitational lens. The gravity of space-time needs gravity from underneath it, not only to bend space-time, but also to ensure the rolling of objects towards larger bodies. We only see gravity as non-materialistic particles, like other bosonian energy bubbles. Those particles fill the universe and are always active. The Graviton Bubble and pressure are two sides of the same coin. And we see that it is responsible for the formation of space and the placement of the white cosmic matter in the places designated for it in dark matter. It determines the positions and the paths of white matter, and it coordinates its movement. This subject remains in the hands of experimental physicists to lead a new revolution in the field of gravity. A continuation of Higgs' career, who described the graviton as the giver of mass and the maker of gravity and the generator of all bosons.